One of my subscribers asked how to market for small businesses without breaking the bank. And, it's a very wide open question, but it's also a good question. It's really easy for us as entrepreneurs. Well, it's easy for a new entrepreneur who is not necessarily like a marketer to be told by somebody, probably somebody trying to sell you a certain type of media. So they could be trying to sell you radio. They could be trying to sell you TV. They could be trying to sell you Google ads. They could be trying to sell you, SEO. They could be trying to sell you all sorts of things, right? It's really easy for us in that situation to think that sales pitch is a good one. Especially if it's outside of our area of expertise, because they will convince you, they'll show you, all of your customers listen to radio, all of your customers watch TV, all of your customers are on Facebook, all of your customers, and you need to be in front of them. You need to be in front of them like 7 to 11 times if you want to even get their attention and yada, yada, right? If you want to market for a small business without breaking the bank, the first thing that you need to do is recognize that buying media is not your first step. Buying a TV commercial is not a good idea if you don't have a good way to convert the people who watch the commercial. Buying Facebook ads, not a good idea if you don't have a way to convert. So the first thing that you need to do if you're marketing a small business is you need to design an appropriate conversion system for your business. And so if it's a client business, you need to have a process in place for bringing clients in the door, for bringing them on board. If it's a product business, you need to have a process in place for selling the products, for getting people to buy the products. If it's, whatever the business is, if people need to come in, you need to have a process in place for what it's like to come in for the first time. And you need to really establish what that entire customer experience is like. And you need to decide, how much is it worth to you to get someone in the door? How much is it worth to you to book a first conversation if they're a potential client? How much is it worth to you to do all of these things? Whatever the appropriate initial conversion event is. And what you may find is 20% of the people who book this initial consultation become clients, and a client is worth $1,000. And so at most, we need to spend 1/5 of that to bring somebody in. And so we need to get someone for $200. Okay, so now you have some metrics. And then you need to start experimenting, and you do this through controlled experimentation. And this goes all the way back to Claude Hopkins' Scientific Advertising. Check out the link in the description. I offer a free audiobook and download of Claude Hopkins' Scientific Advertising. It's a classic book on direct response and conversion-oriented advertising. So he says, why test? This was back in the days of print newspapers. It was before the Great Depression. Why test all the newspapers in the country when you can test one city or a couple cities and figure out if it works before you spend the money on the entire country, right? And the exact same thing works now. So our goal is to get new client consultations booked for $200 a piece. Why spend a $10,000 advertising budget when you could probably figure out within the first 500 if you have any shot of getting that person in for $200? If you get to 500 and you haven't gotten anybody, you need to change what you're doing. You need to change the conversion system. You need to change that customer path. You need to change something. And you can look, okay, we spent $500 on Facebook ads and we got 0 clicks. Clearly, we need better Facebook ads. We spent $500 on Facebook ads. We got a ton of clicks and we got a ton of visits to our website, but none of them are filling out our lead form. Oh, okay, something needs to happen there. We got, a ton of people filling out the lead form, but nobody actually shows up for the calls. Oh, we need to do something there. And you establish what that process is, and then you do small tests to try and achieve your goal within a budget. Or initially, oftentimes, our best guesses for what's going to work are not the best. And so, so you might test 2 or 3 things with your initial budget, and you're going to figure out, okay, actually maybe we should test 3 different ads across 5 different targeting approaches. And so you start to develop this like much broader test. And so the whole idea being that you should test small before you try to spend a bunch of money. Now, when you say test on a budget, like your growth will also be limited by what your budget is. And so the appropriate attitude for a small business needs to be figure out if something is profitable on a small budget, but then be willing to do more of what you have proven is profitable as fast as you can get the revenue in the door to support that spending. And so, for example, you may have $1,000 test budget every month, but when something is successful, if it is generating, $40,000 worth of profit, you don't want to limit the budget to $10,000 or to $1,000. You might want to say, well, what happens if we spend $2,000? What happens if we spend $3,000? Does that increase? And how, are we able to handle the business through that? And so initially going back to the top, figure out what you need to do to convert a new customer, whatever that means for your business. Figure out what the numbers need to look like for that. And then when you figure out what the numbers need to look like for that, you need to do a limited test where you are actually trying to walk someone through that conversion process. And when that works, you need to figure out, okay, what can we, how can we afford to scale this? How can we afford to repeat the success? What are we able to do in terms of generating an additional, more success through this? And, without more specific, like, what's going on with my campaign or my particular product or service is this, when we're talking small business marketing on a budget, like, that's my approach. That's the strategic and principles level approach first. And then when you get down to the tactical level, of course, there could be more specific implementation recommendations. What do you think? How valuable did you find this? Leave a comment below. Let me know on a scale of 1 to 10 how valuable you found it and why. Like, what was your big takeaway? What's your big action item out of it? Also, click that like button before you go so you get more content like this delivered to you, and so the magical algorithms of the internet know to share it with more people like you who will find it valuable. If there's an entrepreneur in your life, a small business owner who would find this valuable, you can certainly share it with them directly. And subscribe before you go. Subscribe here. Also, check out that free download for scientific advertising. It is an absolute classic of marketing and advertising, and it's required reading. David Ogilvy said nobody should have anything to do with advertising until they've read this book 7 times. And so we know it's good. And the link is in the description. That will also sign you up for my Breakthrough Marketing Secrets daily emails, where you get these videos as well as exclusive content for email subscribers delivered every day. Monday through Friday. My name is Roy Furr. This has been a video issue of Breakthrough Marketing Secrets. I always aim for that 10 out of 10 value. I hope I've delivered it here, and I'll see you again in your next video. See you soon. Bye.